Alright, hello everyone. Hopefully the audio and video is coming through okay. Welcome to round 1 of Season 3 of TRR's ACC Sprint Series. I am RC53. You join me today at the Snetterton 300 circuit situated in rather rainy Norfolk, England. We're watching on board with Bass Monkey 88 as he joins up in the Lexus RCF. And this is a new dawn for TRR's GT3 division, as gone are the days of, well, hopefully, single-make dominance. Now the cars have been staggered. You'll see a lot more vehicle variety as the season progresses. And with a much higher player count to boot as well. You can see already 10 people, including an extra one, which would be me in the commentary box. 10 people already in the session with 40 minutes left to go this free practice session. It's 21 degrees out and very damp on track at the moment. A bit reflective of today's weather for you, those of you tuning in from the United Kingdom. It's been a little bit wet and a little bit hot, and it's been very muggy today. Just going to double check that the audio is coming through okay. We've had issues in the past with the audio every now and again. Alright, fantastic. I can hear myself in the replay. So let's run you through some of the changes that have gone on in the Season 3 regulations for the ACC Sprint Series in order to try and promote a more diverse variety of vehicle and much closer, more competitive racing. Rather than having one driver run off with the bag, we've now introduced a team-style system for the championship, as now players will be able to team up with one another on the grounds they're racing the same car in the same livery, and now we'll be able to contribute towards a sort of pseudo-constructors championship on a team-by-team basis. Think what goes on in LMP2. And there's just a little bit of a spin there out of... which corner is that? I'm just going to double-check. Nelson corner there for Bass Monkey. A little bit of trouble. Oh, sorry, not out of Nelson corner. On the run into... the first corner there. I'm still trying to learn the circuit myself. That was out of Murray's corner. I'm looking at a little different layout of the track. Also in this season are a variety of brand new cars. They were very recently added with the 2023 GT World Challenge pack to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Let's see if we can scroll through the pits and see what we can find. I believe that is the first of one of our new cars, the Porsche 992 911 GT3R. Now, what can I say about this car that is a direct improvement over the 911 2 GT3R, which it is very often confused with in the naming conventions. Porsche really like to throw numbers to the wind here. The 992 GT3R is a lot more squat, it's got wider rear arches, more sophisticated front and rear aero, and you can see the front and rear facade has changed. This is to reflect the new 992 chassis for the Porsche 911, which was introduced in late 2022. You can see a byproduct of this is that the car sits much more squat to the ground and a lot wider. It takes up a lot more presence on the road, giving the car not only that defensive edge, where it's taking up a lot more space. You saw how wide cars were capable of putting on a good defensive show. If you tuned in last season, you would have seen when I raced for the Aston Martin Works team in the Vantage, how I was able to defend with having such a wide rear end on the Vantage GT3. A similar effect will be experienced here in the 911 GT3R, the 992 GT3R, I should say. But of course, we all know it as the 911, the 905, whichever you want to call it. It's an iconic sports car. And let's see what else we've got. And that is Tips 1967 racing alongside Apollyon in one of the newer teams here. I'm going to see if I can remember the pronunciation as it is in French. I think it's Les Treux Dorés, which means the Golden Bulls. Obviously a reference to the Lamborghini logo itself, which is a golden bull. This is the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2. Of course, this cut its teeth in International GT. It is an evolution of the original Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 1, if I'm not mistaken. And this one borrows elements from the Huracan Super Trofeo Omologato, or STO, the open market car which was used to homologate the use of the Super Trofeo Evo 2. And of course, elements of this have made its way into the GT3 program. That roof scoop up there, whilst previously it doesn't actually do anything on the STO road car in the Super Trofeo Evo 2 and GT3 Evo 2, like you see on your screen here at the moment, the number 67 in this beautiful orange and turquoise paint job. That roof scoop is channeling air and sending it into that I believe it's a 4-litre V10 engine, co-built by Audi. It's a very familiar soundtrack to those of you who tuned in last season, where we got to see the likes of Audi and frequently here and there Lamborghini after the Hour of Monza. And here is the one to watch at the moment. There have been a lot of rumours surrounding the Ferrari 296, and what is there to say but a total revamp of Ferrari sports car platform. Gone are the days of the V8 turbo, and now is the V6 turbo. A very similar platform to what we saw in the race-winning 499P hybrid hypercar that we saw win the 24 Hours of Le Mans earlier this year. Speaking of the World Endurance Series, Ferrari narrowly missed out on pole position for the 6 Hours of Monza by only a hundredth of a second to the number 7 Toyota. And the Ferrari 296, like we see on the screen at the moment, adorning this very crisp black and gold paint job here, is driven by Neverlift and V Sparco that make up the UK BB team. And that is another thing as well. We've given the drivers the liberty of not only creating their own teams, but naming them as well, in accordance with our own guidelines, similar to what we had in the F1 Custom Teams Championship. So this is the UK BB team, and the drivers, of course, as mentioned before, Neverlift and V Sparco. And you can see Neverlift on your screen at the moment on the run in Sector 2. Or Sector... I'm still trying to make up where the starting line is. On the run through Sector 2. And they'll be competing, if I can find them on the grid at the moment. There's V Sparco, you just saw on your screen there, the number 13, some way up in Sector 3 now on the run to the line to finish off this flying lap. His previous was a 155.0, and now we'll see a 155.062. His fastest time was only some 0.2 faster than that. If we scroll through the order, these will be their main rivals this season. As you can see on your screen, this is Private Joker, the number 22, very fond of his Porsche 911s. He'll be racing alongside two-time champion E39 Kai in the USG Motorsport team. You can see this beautiful, almost Rothmans-inspired livery adorning the 992 GT3R. You see there is Paul 24 in a 992 GT3R as well, adorning a rather unique bright blue, almost Miami blue paint job on that Porsche. And just Boris joining us in the fourth new car to take to this grid. This is the McLaren 720S Evo. Now, obviously, as the name implies, this is an updated, evolved version of the McLaren 720S GT3. And it has more aggressive front and rear aero that coincides with the new regulations for GT3 cars. You can see a much larger rear wing and a few more strakes over that front end, and a bit more of an aggressive front bumper that helps channel air up and over and up and under as well, I should say, in both directions, both into the engine and over that massive rear spoiler. Boris, of course, a championship contender himself. He really put on a show in the dominant BMW M4 from last season, but gone are the days of the M4. It's somewhat of a stranger to this grid now. I think we have no BMWs currently joining us on the grid of these 11 drivers out at the moment. Of course, now for some information on the track. Here we are at Snetterton, 12 corners and 2.969 miles of FIA Grade 2 tarmac. And we'll follow on board with Bass Monkey 88 on his run round the first corner of this track. Now he's coming down the centre straight into this first corner here, which is Rich's corner. A fast right-hander that closes up a little bit on the run to turn 2, which is this open hairpin right at Montreal. You can see right on his trails there is the number 13. That's V Sparco in the Ferrari 296. And as we exit Montreal corner, we're going to run through Palmer corner now. Turn 3, a fast left-hander. You can see he's having to get off the throttle there. The heavier Lexus struggling under the duresses of these wet weather conditions at the moment. But he's some way up on his time. And on the run now to Agostini corner, turn 4. And this corner is another open hairpin. And now this is where things get tricky. We've got a sharp left-hander coming up. This is Hamilton corner. This is according to the map that I've got here on my monitor. And now on the run down to Augie's corner. This is a parabolic turn. It's sharper on entrance than it is on exit. Almost similar to Parabolica in Monza. You see, he just catches a little bit of rear end there on the RCF. And there goes V Sparco on the inside. You can see E39 Kai on the back end of Bass Monkey now as we exit through Williams corner. Now down the Bentley straight to these next two corners that are going to be repeatedly quite the challenge for some of these drivers. It's a deceptive duo of corners, as we see on the run-in now. This is Brundle and Nelson corner. We have a medium left-hander into a sharp right-hander. You can see he's trying to let E39 Kai go, but he sent him onto the grass. And now, this is a corner that all of the drivers really like hearing me say. It is the bomb hole corner. I have no idea how many times I'm going to say that during the stream. Probably the one time, to be honest. Unless an incident happens there, I'm going to have to mention it, of course. It sounds a lot like a word that I'd rather not say on the stream. And now, out through Coram and Murray's corner. That fast right-hander into a sharp left-hander to round out this lap here. If it weren't for the little bit of troubles, it would have been a decent lap there. 159.565 for the number 88. It's the first time we've seen Lexus rejoin the GT3 grid since, I believe, Zolder back in Season 2, previously driven by Neverlift, before he transitioned over to Porsche. At the moment, a bit of trouble out here in the wet. All the drivers have complained of the new tyre model as well, introduced to Assetto Corsa Competizione, which now adds extra emphasis on tyre degradation, and now adds the sudden event where the tyres can be overloaded and will explode violently, sending the car careening off the track. Hopefully we don't see anything of the sort for this hour-long race here at Snetterton. 30 minutes left to go in free practice. Let's get a look at the timing charts. So, Paul 24 sets the fastest time so far in the wet at 1:53.157. Neverlift lines up second in this practice session so far. He's 5 tenths off in the number 51 Ferrari. UKBB Motorsport is really showing good ground here as a duo, as V Sparko lines up with the third fastest time. He's 7 tenths away from Paul 24 himself. Apollyon now interjected by NLR Andy. In the Lexus RCF, the number 69 Lexus going 4th fastest, 1 whole second off from Paul 24's time. Apollyon in the Lamborghini, 2.1 seconds away. Private Joker with USG Motorsport, 2.5 seconds out. Just Boris, Base Monkey, Prince Vinny, Tips and E39 Kai yet to set a sufficient time. Oh, I say that now, and you can see the times have just appeared on the screen. Just Boris 4 seconds away, Base Monkey 6.1 seconds away. You can see the track conditions there in the top right handers of your screen. You can see the rain is starting to clear up a little bit. Track now is considered damp, but the wet tyres would still be unlikely to be going away so soon. 22 degrees on track and 22 degrees ambient. Very indicative of the average British summertime. The heat lingers in the air as much as it lingers in the ground. It is horrible, jungle-like conditions in Snetterton. You can see, coming out of the last corner there on the run down the centre straight now, to set the 5th fastest time, a 1:54.355 for Just Boris in the McLaren. I should add as well, this is the first time we've seen McLaren join the grid since, I believe, it might have been either Panorama or Laguna Seca last season, before we saw the withdrawal of Cotilla 24. Let's get a look on board with our fastest driver so far. Paul 24 in the 911 GT3R. Number 24 now taking to his own tune, no longer donning the number 911 that he ran last season when he raced the previous gen Porsche 911. He's slowing down at the moment after invalidating his time. He's going to be letting Andy through in the number 69 Lexus. I should add as well that Base Monkey and Andy are on the same team. They're teaming up for this season as well. And they are racing under DGK Motorsport. So we've already seen a little bit of a show of force for their pace. Andy P4 and Base Monkey P8. A solid show of force from what was considered for a while to be an outmoded platform. The Lexus RCF is still a race-winning platform in the IMSA WeatherTech series, leading the IMSA WeatherTech GT Championship at the moment. Now this is it's more of a Western platform, of course. The Lexus is a sort of a co-op project between Japanese and American engineers. The end result is quite the bruiser. It's one of the bigger cars to take to this grid, one of the heavier cars too, and this does result in some cumbersome handling. But the formidable top end on these Lexuses will prove quite the threat to some drivers, especially in and amongst a large slipstream train during this hour-long race as we go down the Senna Straight and the Bentley Straight. You can see they run almost parallel to each other. This is the Senna Straight now. It's a slightly right-hand banked straight, runs all the way from the last to the first corner. It's a prime overtaking zone on this fast right-hander at turn 1. You can see just how well the Lexus takes it there. On the other end of the spectrum for handling, you've got the lighter cars like the Porsche 911 and the Ferrari, where is it? The Ferrari 296. These opt for more skittish, more nimble platforms. These can often struggle under the duresses of wet weather. And we see Neverlift still holding on to that second fastest time of the session so far. And with the track drying up, you can see the sun starting to poke through the overcast here. Starting to get a little bit of sunshine down on the track. It's starting to glisten off of these bright golden black Ferraris. And you can see the metallic blue and orange of Apollyon behind him. It's a bit of a gun show for the Italian makes. Ferrari and Lamborghini are ones to keep an eye on for this season. And speaking of Lamborghini, you can just see Apollyon off there in the background. Speaking of Lamborghini, their LMDH car that they'll set to be racing in a few years' time in the World Endurance Championship is set to be revealed at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in just a few months' time. Elsewhere in motorsport, Max Verstappen takes his 5th in a row pole position at the British Grand Prix, narrowly beating out the likes of the unlikely duo of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, the McLaren duo, running a special chromed livery to celebrate the history of the McLaren team and their partnership with Google, had taken 2nd and 3rd fastest times in qualifying when the flag dropped. So it'll be an interesting show come tomorrow at around 3 PM British summertime. Speaking of Formula 1, hopefully if everything holds up for this stream, it's a good go-ahead for tomorrow's stream, the Chinese Grand Prix for TRR's 2nd season of Custom Team Championships. Just watching now with Neverlift. And something you'll note throughout the stream, in these little gaps between the commentary, and you'll be able to hear the cars whizzing around this just sub 3 mile track at the moment, that any and all noise will be absolutely deafened out by the howl of the flat sixes on those Porsches. They're the loudest cars on the track. Here's one example. This is the number 22. This is Private Joker racing for USG Motorsport, and it's an absolute screamer, this engine. Here's Paul 24. The Porsche seems to be a very popular choice. Now, the teams are limited to just 2 per car, so we'll only have 2 teams hopefully running this one make, and then another team will have to find a different car. Same as the story for a bunch of the new regulation cars like this one here, the McLaren 720S Evo. Josh Boris yet to have made any kind of statement in the server over whether or not he'll be teaming up with anyone, as he seems to be riding solo in this rather classically coloured black, orange and silver, very indicative of his previous colour scheme when he used to race in the BMW. And speaking of racing for BMW, let's just take a little bit of a tangent there. You can see him in the background there when I was scrolling around. This is E39 Kai. Now, 2 championships on the trot is no small feat in TRR. I myself would know that as well, having gotten 2 championships in the Assetto Corsa series. It takes a lot of grit and determination to climb the ranks and to beat everyone else out for pace and for racecraft. And E39 Kai has delivered in that in droves last season, and we'll be interested to see what he can do with a brand new team, a new teammate, and a brand new car. As he previously had more of the affinity for front-engined rear drive, now he's rear-engine rear drive. He's gone to the other end of the spectrum here in this 911, but he seems to be taking to it quite well. He's 6th fastest of the 11 cars currently to have taken to the track at the moment. It is going to be interesting to see how this maps out, not only for the sake of these brand new cars, but for some of the older generation cars as well. You can see the grid is primarily filled with new generation cars. This is Prince Vinny in the number 50 Ferrari. He's yet to have made a team as far as I'm to understand, but this is a rather unique livery that he's running. These bright neon colours definitely do stick out as it's quite iconic amongst the grid ranks at the moment. You can see these bright splashes of cyan, pink and lime amidst the ocean blue paint job. Certainly makes for one of the more interesting cars to look at. And he is out on his outlap at the moment on the run in through Sector 2. He's just coming out of Williams' corner now to the Bentley straight. Let's take another look around. Neverlift is some way up on his time. You can see it was about a tenth of a second there, bouncing between a tenth and 2/10 of a second, and in the same vein bouncing between a tenth and nothing. It's all or nothing for the 51 at the moment, definitely on the dry compound tyres. Now you can see a dry line forming in the track. It seems that the rain is going away for a little while. We were scheduled for a little bit of rain during the race. We may see that come back into play. Of course, only time will tell. You can see he's now 3/10 up on his time. It is some formidable grit there from the 51 to pull back the times now. He may be hunting down that fastest time in free practice. Of course, we've not even got to the main event. We've not even got to qualifying yet. It's already getting quite interesting for these new generation cars. Now up through Brundle and Nelson corner. You see Hartness Trails there. There's NLR Andy, who's taken to the Lexus platform quite well, I should add. Already sneaking himself into the top 5 with what was considered by many last season to be one of the worst cars on the grid. And he's already proven with, I think it's DGK Motorsport, that he's proven that the Lexus can be competitive. And we will keep a close eye on the progress of the Lexus team throughout this season. Of course, there are ones to watch pretty much everywhere on the grid. And now that he's finished off that lap of 1:53.208 for Neverlift. Very, very fast lap. We'll catch up with him later on. And let's take a look at one of the new drivers to have joined us today. This is Attended Genie. He'll be racing for Audi Sport in the Rothko Golf Audi R8 Evo 2. His teammate is AMG King 5, who's yet to have made an appearance so far. Attended Genie already showing up in the number 30. And we'll see how he gets on when he comes out of the pits later on. Let's go on board now with the number 63. This is Apollyon racing in the brand new Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2. You can see when I mentioned before that some of the changes brought onto this car were heavily inspired by the Huracan Super Trofeo, or the STO model. You can really see what I mean when it dons the same colours as the car I just mentioned. You can see the back end, the sort of rear fascia now is highly reminiscent of the STO. You've got the roof scoop off the STO now, and the front end borrows that sort of triangular, almost Darth Vader-like grille off of the STO as well. Apollyon had a decent run for qualifying when it came to racing with Lamborghini. However, bad luck would seem to routinely strike him at every beck and call. In every single race, he's just seemed to miss out through circumstances unlike his own, or out of his control. But let's hope that he has a good season this time round. A little bit of trouble there over the bumps, as now he runs round Coram Corner. Now through Murray's. It really closes up that last corner there, but it closes on entry and opens on exit. It spits the car out onto this long opening straight, and this is where the naturally aspirated cars are going to struggle, because yes, they've got the higher top end, but unlike their turbocharged counterparts, they lack the acceleration. You can see Apollyon really seems to struggle. We saw this last time a few laps ago. We saw that he had trouble around Rich's corner. Mid-corner grip seems to be among some of the issues for this team. For Le TRR. It seems to be quite the consistent problem. And this platform, of course, all of these platforms are brand new. And they're in tune with this year's specification for GT3 cars, in line with the Fanatec GT World Challenge Series and other series as well, where these cars have debuted in. This Lamborghini in particular has also been racing in the Asian Le Mans Series and the Asian GT Series as well, racing alongside the likes of GT500 cars in Japan. we just see as well, because I've just seen this on the timing charts, we have now a Ferrari going fastest. This is V Sparco in the number 13 Ferrari 296. Now setting the fastest time ahead of Pole 24. Are we expecting a little bit of a shootout between these two in qualifying? You can see he's dragging it all the way up to the red line there. And, in longer races where we would expect to see the 296 later on this year, that may grow to be trouble when the engine starts to become overburdened with the turbo pressure. This was a problem that the 488 GT3 had before in regards to engine reliability, being one of Ferrari's first turbocharged V8 engines to go into a GT3 car, previously running naturally aspirated V8 engines in the 458 GT3 and 458 GT2 respectively. See a little bit of trouble for Base Monkey there. I believe that is just round Oggie's corner on the run into Williams. There's NLR Andy now going around Montreal corner. He runs it deep but nips it back in, gets hard on the throttle now, sends that 5 litre V8 in that Lexus soaring down to Palmer corner. Still trying to learn all the corners myself. It's Paul 24 now taking the fastest time. A 151.294 was his previous lap, and that is the fastest lap so far. He's down the Bentley straight at the moment with an invalidated lap time. He'll be looking to recover that in a moment's time when he gets around these last set of corners here at Brundle, Nelson, Bomb Hole, Coram and Murray's corner. This last sector of corners here will make up the last of this lap, and hopefully he'll be able to get either back on his feet or into the garage to figure out what the problems are starting to be with this new platform. Speaking of Porsches, this is E39 Kai on the run now down through the second to last corner. This is Coram corner. Now through Murray's. He's very late on the brakes as well. He's taking advantage of the very, very high amount of grip over the rear axle that these Porsches get. They get really good rear braking. If you could keep it right on the edge of locking up, you can get almost exaggerated like braking. It's almost like dropping an anchor in a cruise ship. You see through Rich's corner there, very little trouble. 3/10 up on his time already on the run into Montreal. He's got a slow car ahead, and I believe that is a Tender Genie, and he's going to be trying to rejoin the track there with the Porsche in his sights. That could have been dangerous there from a Tender Genie. Fortunately, doesn't seem to have knocked Kai's confidence whatsoever. He's 7/10 up on the run to Agostini corner. We want to have bated breath as he skims around, being second up on his time before he's even left Sector 2 through Hamilton Curve now on the run to Oggie's. And there he goes. He's over a second now in improvement. He may be hunting down the fastest time with the USG Porsche. He'll be going head to head with a former ally of his. And they used to race in BMWs together. He'll be going head to head with V Sparco, who now races for UKBB Motorsport in the Ferrari 296. These two will eventually clash on track. Round Brundle and Nelson, very close on the inside for E39 Kai, keeping it very close to the apex of both of those corners. Very nicely done. He's 1.4 seconds up now on the run down to Coram corner. 1.5 seconds up. It's a massive improvement so far over his previous lap. And now out of Murray's, it's all connected quite well, and it's going to be a run to the line. Will he go fastest, or where will he actually stack up in respect to everyone else as he crosses the line? And it's the fastest time so far, 150.650 for E39 Kai. Fantastic stuff from the two-time champion. You see now, this is just Boris, who's 1.7 seconds up on his fastest time as he rounds Coram corner into Murray's to finish off this flying lap. It's looking very good for the Brits so far. .3 seconds of improvement there. The McLaren taking a little bit of time to warm up, but it's looking good so far as he crosses the line for the third fastest time, a 151.012. See it as the track starts to dry up towards the end of this practice session. If it stays dry into qualifying, we're in for a real treat with these brand new 2023 specification cars. It's definitely going to open up a lot more avenues for varied races. We've tried everything in our power with the regulation changes to avoid what happened last season, where, with the exemption of the Hour of Zandvoort, every single race that season was won by the same make and model car, a 2022 BMW M4 GT3. You can see right now, it's aloft with various different brands, various different colours. It's aloft with the kind of variety we were looking for from day one. And we had a little bit of that in Season 1, and then we saw, as everyone gravitated towards the meta for this game, before the 1.9 patch, it was a grid of primarily BMWs. We were almost running it as a parallel to the MT35i Cup with the amount of BMWs present on the grid. Lee Sparko now in P4, but he's some way up on his time, about 2/10 wrestling the controls now through Palmer Corner on the run to Agostini in Sector 2. He's got Tips in front of him, and hopefully those two don't get too close to each other. You can see there's a healthy gap between those two as they set their flying laps. Now around Agostini Corner into Hamilton Curve. You can see Tips letting Sparko get past him there. Good little bit of sportsmanship. Unfortunately, it's in vain though. Sparko invalidates his time after getting a little too friendly with the inside curb and ricocheting the car out of the apex of that corner. His teammate Neverlift now sits 6th fastest after riding on a high of the 2nd fastest time in the early doors of this session when it was a little bit more wet on the track. The 51 now just escapes the top 5. Whilst we've got some open air as well, with about 9.5 minutes left to go of this free practice session, here's another interesting fact about the Snetterton circuit. It's owned by the Motorsport Vision Group. This is the same conglomerate that owns not only this circuit, but Brands Hatch, Cadwell Park, Alton Park, Bedford Autodrome, and Donington Park as well. This is NLR Andy now. He's just in the top 10 there. He's now just been, as I say that, relegated to P10. He's 5, looking at 6/10 up on his time as he rounds Agostini Corner. He's got Prince Vinny on his tail in the number 50 Ferrari 296. As he runs around the Hamilton curve, you can see that Ferrari really hanging on to the back of that Lexus. Now, DKG versus Ferrari as we round Williams Corner on the run now, down the Bentley Straight. It's getting a little bit aggressive there, a little bit of tussling for position there. He's really hanging on, not giving him the space now, perhaps surfing a little bit of that slipstream to give himself a leg up on the times come the end of this free practice session. You can see there's a car off ahead there. That is Neverlift. That's the number 51 Ferrari off at Nelson Corner. He's quickly rejoined the track there. He's got that sorted quite nicely. My eyes currently focused up on the number 69 as he rounds Coram Corner to Murray's to finish off this rather interesting flying lap. He's 1.3, 1.2 seconds up. A little bit of a correction there out of the exit of Murray's has depleted his time down a little bit. He'll be 1.2 seconds up as he crosses the line to go from P10 to P8. So already a decent little bit of fight back there from the Lexus team to try and avoid being stuck outside the top 10 like they had to deal with last season. Speaking of Lexus, let's get a look in on Base Monkey. He's P7 at the moment, so P7 and P8 so far in this practice session for the Lexus duo of DKG Motorsport. As a matter of fact, let's get a look at the timing charts as we have 7 minutes left to go. You can see rain is on the way on that forecast in 15 minutes time. If that carries over into the qualifying, we'll have a wet qualifying session, perhaps even a dry race, or a mixture of the two. Regardless, let's see what we're dealing with at the moment. E39 Kai with USG Motorsport tops the timing charts in the number 1 Porsche. I need to actually look up the team name for Apollyon. My French isn't so good. I have to actually take a look at it. So Le TRR Doré with P2 so far, second fastest time in the free practice session. The number 63 Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 of Apollyon. In third position is the number 13 of the UK BB Ferrari Motorsports team of V Sparco. Paul 24 in his freelancer Porsche takes the fourth fastest time. Private Joker with USG rounding out the top 5 with the fifth fastest time. 1.5 seconds slower than his teammate, who did a formidable 1:49.3. Just Boris in the freelance McLaren, the number 44, taking the sixth fastest time. And then the Lexus duo of Base Monkey and NLR Andy, P7 and P8. Prince Vinny, P9, Neverlift, P10, Tips, P11, and Attender Genie in the number 30 Audi in P12. So with just under 6 minutes left to go, it's all to play for out of the exit of this practice session. Whilst the track's still dry, you can see now track conditions are green. We're getting on for tolerable, decent conditions on track. We've lost a little bit of that post-rain grease that you get on the track. And a dry line has been well and truly secure, 23 degrees on track. Now we're getting on for some good conditions here. Private Joker looking to strike back at his previous time as he comes out of Murray's corner. He's got 5 tenths of improvement there. Will he be trying to sneak into the top 5? And it's not enough of an improvement to get himself into the top 5. He'll remain P6 for now. Of course, yet to get into qualifying, but it's a good outlook for some of the dynamic of the teams we've got going on at the moment. You've got Le TRR Doré. You've got the UK BB Motorsports team. You've got the DKG Motorsports team. And you've got the USG Motorsports team. A lot of acronyms. A lot of acronyms. Or DGK, I should say, not DKG. What's interesting about this series is obviously the teams part of it is entirely optional. We have drivers that are still gunning for the Drivers' Championship. The Teams' Championship offers up a little bit more of that competitive edge. That means that if someone tries to run away with the championship, there is still always the idea that if they're a freelancer, it's not going to contribute massively to the Teams' Championship, as they'll be scoring on their own. And these teams will have a crack at another TRR Constructors' Championship. This will be going into effect a little bit harsher in the Endurance Series. We're seeing a similar thing play out, except the teams are a little bit closer on the nose to official manufacturers' teams, as to reflect their role as endurance race teams, as opposed to freelancers in a GT series. This is the Le TRR Doré team, the 67 and 63 Lamborghini Huracans. You can see there, among the small few left on track. 7 tenths up at the moment is Tips 1967 as he rounds Coram Corner now. And it's a big improvement over his previous time. Is he going to try and squeak himself in on the top 10 by the end of this session? Let's see, it's 1.2, looking at maybe 1.3 seconds down the center straight now as he crosses the line. Is it a top 10? It is not, unfortunately, for Tips 1967. He'll stay P11. 3 minutes left to go of this free practice session before we get on to the main event, the qualifying. First qualifying of the season. It's a big, big event for all of these teams looking to get early doors right to that front couple of rows on the grid. It's going to be well in... It's going to be well within the grasp of an early championship lead. Obviously, these teams are going to want to coordinate their efforts to try and get some front row, maybe some middle row, or just any row lockout. That defensive performance that they can put on if they were trying defending from the front may just secure them that early lead they've been looking for. And I think there are 2 teams that come to mind at the moment where I know that this dynamic of the Teams Championship, a little bit of trouble there for the 13, V Sparco, who's P5 at the moment. Now P6. We just checked the timing charts now. Paul 24 setting the new fastest time, a 1:48.633. Just Boris joining him on the front row at the end of this practice session. Only a tenth off. 3 tenths off is Neverlift, who's still hunting down the fastest time. You can see it's much closer than it was last season. We had whole second, maybe 2 second, 3 second differences between the likes of Paul, Boris and the rest of the grid, and I think these new regulations have definitely brought it more in line with what we were looking for, where every driver will eventually have his day. We had a lot of that in Season 1, where we had multiple drivers competing for the championship. On the very last race of the season in Nürburgring, we had around 5 or 6 drivers vying for the championship. That is what we're looking to replicate, not only in the teams, but for the drivers themselves. And you can see 3 tenths looking at 4 tenths up as he rounds the Oggies and Williams corners now. Is Neverlift 2451 on the run down the Bentley straight, almost getting the back end out there on that Ferrari. And from me personally, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this Ferrari duo of Neverlift and V Sparko, of course, in the Endurance Series. I won't be commentating for that, unfortunately. I will be racing for the first time since a few months now, I believe it's been, since I've gotten behind the wheel of a GT3 car in TRR's competitive series lineup. I've been testing here and there, but in any official setting, I've been out of action since round 5 of Season 2. And hopefully I'll be returning to the seat come September time for the Endurance Series racing in the car you see on screen, the Ferrari 296. And now, as he crosses the line with 30 seconds left to go, it's the fastest time for the Ferrari 296, a 148.222. Can the Porsche and the McLaren strike back with 20 seconds left to go this free practice session? I believe that's Paul there in the pits. Where is Boris? Can I see him in the pit wall? I think you can just see down the end there. Looks like maybe a little wheel there of the McLaren, unless he's out on track. I really can't tell. No, he's in the pit wall. You can see I'm using a much lower resolution monitor as well, so I can't really see the track layout super well. You can see the 63, 22 and 69 are still out on track. So that would be NLR Andy, Apollyon and Private Joker, the last 3 to take to this Snetterton 300 circuit. And the flag drops for free practice. Let's get a look at our timing chart yet again. Neverlift taking the fastest time of 148.222, a whole 0.2 of a second faster than the 24 of Paul 24. Just Boris some 5 tenths away in the number 44 McLaren. E39 Kai with USG Motorsports Porsche division in the number 1, a whole second away from this new championship challenger. Apollyon takes the 5th fastest time, rounding out the top 5 with a whole 1.4 second deficit from the fastest time. In P6 is Neverlift's teammate with UKBB Motorsport. This is V Sparko in the 13 with the 6th fastest time. Private Joker P7, Base Monkey P8, his teammate NLR Andy P9, Prince Vinny P10, Tips in P11 and Attended Genie in P12. Now, as you can hear, screaming past the pit wall there was the 22 to cross the line. And it's P7 for Private Joker. And we'll get underway in just a moment's time for this hectic qualifying session. You can see the rain is back in force. Fully wet track, no slick tyres for now, 26 degrees on the track, and it looks like it'll be clearing out in around 15 minutes time. The drivers will not have a lot of time then to get back onto the dry compound tyres to start pulling in that dry line. They'll have about 4 minutes, if that, to get out and clear the water off of that road. But now taking to the circuit is these first 2 cars here. This is the USG Porsche and the UKBB Ferrari. E39 Kai crossing the pit lines there a bit early, and following him is the 51 of Neverlift 2451. These 2 are the ones to keep an eye on as well. Of course, you can't rule out anyone else, with these 2 already eager to get those times out and get set for what is going to be quite a chaotic qualifying session, with the constant threat of the track drying up and the times completely shifting come the end of the session. But it needs to be early doors pole positions for these 2. And you can see already they're in within equal respect to one another. Remember, about 1.7 seconds is what divides them on the run through Agostini corner. The rear-engine flat 6 Porsche versus the mid-engine V6 Ferrari. It's the battle of the 6-cylinder engines for that front row. Of course, they're not alone in all of this. Another flat 6 Porsche driven by Paul 24 looms beyond the horizon at the moment. And the V8-powered McLaren 720S of Just Boris also looms over that presiding pole position. The first pole position we'll see this season. And who will it be awarded to? Only time will tell, and we'll see in just 18 minutes' time. Let's get an on board with Neverlift, and we can hear that V6 engine, highly reminiscent tone to what we get in prototype race cars in the World Endurance Championship. Of course, the number 51, reminiscent of the number 51 Ferrari, driven by Pier Guidi, Antonio Giovinazzi, and James Collado, that won out in the 24 Hours of Le Mans just a few weeks ago. I believe that maybe is what enforced the naming conventions of the 51 here. You can see a little bit of trouble, though, out of Murray's. And it's a troubled start for the 51. Of course, this is only his outlap, but it's going to stunt some of that momentum. You can see his teammate just off in the background there. That's V Sparco, the number 13, rounding Murray's corner. You just see there's the two Ferraris in shot. We'll keep an eye on the 51. He's now got quite the gap between himself and E39 Kai. Perhaps what he needed just to keep him out of harm's way. Now around Montreal corner. And they're going to be struggling for pace in the Porsche and the Ferrari respectively. They got the centre of gravity a little bit in between the front and rear axle. Of course, with the front engine cars like the V8 Vantage, the RCF and the BMW M4, you had the centre of gravity towards the front axle. Yes, this would mean more understeer, but it also meant that in the rain, when you were steering around corners, you had more weight over the front axle. And under braking, it meant that the tyres were able to squish into the ground more, forward more water out of the way, and award the car just a little bit more grip over the front at the cost of some grip loss over the rear. It's the total inverse here. They're going to be dealing with buckets of understeer, these two, with tons of acceleration potential out of these corners. And now as he rounds Williams' corners, you can see this idea being demonstrated at the moment. A little bit of understeer. He gets washed out towards the end of that corner there, but blasts out 130, looking on 140 miles an hour as he slows down into Brundle and Nelson corner. But the Ferrari, keeping it very closely tucked in there, decided to take it wide around Nelson corner and didn't want to get anywhere near that large sausage curb on the inside. And now Coram corner. This is a corner that's going to wash quite a few cars out. It's a long sweeping right-hander, almost perfect semicircle shape as well, and then gets cut off by this sharp left-hander at Murray's. But it's looking so far so good for Neverlift as he rounds this last corner, blasts that Ferrari now up the centre straight, his teammate in tow. And he'll take the fastest time so far, 154.684. We'll see, can V Sparco respond with anything of the sort? He crosses the line with the third fastest time. Currently sitting in between the two of them then is the likes of E39 Kai. It's UKBB Motorsport versus USG Motorsport. The Brits versus the Americans in cars that are from neither of those two countries. It's a very international affair between these two teams. You've got the two British drivers in the Italian car versus the two American drivers in the German car. And then, inversely, you've got the two British drivers, Base Monkey and LLR Andy, in the American/Japanese Lexus. You've got the French driver of Apollyon in the Italian Lamborghini. Fair play to Just Boris. To my understanding, he's from the UK. I've heard him speak before. He sounds British to me. And there he is in a British car. Brit on Brit. The number 44 in the McLaren. Tender Genie taking to the circuit in quite a season favourite, the Audi R8 Evo 2. We saw quite a few of these in the last couple of seasons, and it was a go-to choice for drivers like NLR Andy, who took to racing that platform quite effectively over the last couple of seasons after he transitioned away from racing with the Japanese Honda. This is V Sparco now. He sits 5th fastest after everything's said and done, but a 1.4 second improvement as he rounds Nelson corner. It's going to drop away to a 9/10th, 8/10th, looking at 7/10th improvement now. It just dropped away with a little bit of some struggles around the Nelson corner. And now, round Coram. Is he going to pick up more or less time? We'll see. He's going to have to get quite quickly on the brakes for Murray's. Tucks it on the inside there, uses just enough curb on the exit, and he's going to see himself just up from beyond a second as he crosses the line. And where is that going to place him in respect to everyone else? It's the 4th fastest time for the number 13. Base Monkey sitting currently in the top 5 on 155.490 was his previous lap. And was actually his fastest. You can see the Lexuses really don't seem to struggle that much in the rain. You can see the heavier platforms seem to be able to tackle the standing water just a little bit better than their lighter European counterparts. Speaking of which, this is a European car right here. You can see Private Joker wrestling the controls of that USG Porsche, the number 22 round turn 1 there at Riches, and now round turn 2 at Montreal. Paul 24 now interjecting himself in P2. He's 3/10 up as he rounds Nelson corner. And now on the run through the bomb hole corner into Coram. He's looking at maybe 5/10 of a second there. He'll be gunning for pole position. Of course, everything is set to change. You can see the rain is not really much of an issue anymore. The drivers aren't using their wipers nearly as much. And it seems that the track is drying up with 12 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. You can see now it is just cloudy. So all it is the case of now is the rest of the grid pulverizing water off of that dry line and opening up the opportunity for slick compound tyres. And that's the fastest time we've seen so far in this qualifying session at 153.070 for Paul 24 in the number 24 992 GT3R. You can see there just swooping round Rich's corner and getting past him there is the number 44 McLaren 720S of Just Boris. He sits currently P9 with a 4/10 improvement out of Montreal corner. I imagine he's thinking now, no more time for what I was getting up to in the qualifying sessions of the end of last season, where you saw it at venues like Silverstone, where he was deliberately kneecapping his own times by cutting the last corner as to keep everyone in suspense of what he was capable of come the end of the qualifying session. And we can see now, just Boris has also said himself, our drivers have picked up on this as well, that he and everyone else is starting to struggle quite badly with the new handling model. So no more time for games. It's serious business in Season 3 for everyone from the front to the back of the grid. We'll catch up with Just Boris at the end of his lap as he rounds the Williams corner, I should say, onto the Bentley straight. Let's go on board now with attendant Genie, who's on the run into Agostini corner. You can see in front of him is the 13 of V Sparco, currently the 4th fastest. Base Monkey rounds now to take that P4 off of him. Lexus now up in the top 5, with Base Monkey taking the 4th fastest time so far. His teammate sitting in P11 on his first flying lap. You can see he's rounding Murray's corner now. Where will NLR Andy place in respect to everyone else on this grid? There's 12 drivers that make up this current grid at the moment, and he will sit 2nd fastest of them. A fantastic show of force there from Lexus. So P4 and P2 with 10 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. It's really heating up. P5, I should say now. Base Monkey just relegated to the end of that top 5 row. And let's just get a look at our current venue of times. You see he's just been pushed out of the top 5 by Prince Vinny. So Paul 24 leads with the fastest time on 153.070. NLR Andy the 2nd fastest, 6/10 away from the Porsche E39 Kai with USG Motorsport in P3. Never left with UKBB Motorsport in P4. Prince Vinny in the Freelancer number 50 Porsche sits P5. Base Monkey with DKG Motorsport P6. UKBB 2nd driver, the number 13 of V Sparco, P7. Tips with Le Toureux Doré. I'm terrible at French, I'm sorry about that. I should say. Where is he now? Sorry, I got a little bit lost there. Where did he go? Oh, he's currently not set a time. So I was on about tips there. Sorry, I was meant to be talking about Apollyon. So tips, I should say, P8 with Le Toureux Doré in the 67 Lamborghini Huracan. Private Joker with USG Motorsport P9. Just Boris in the Freelancer McLaren sits P10. Attended Genie with the freelance, well, I shouldn't say it's not freelance, he's just not giving it a team name, but the Golf Audi, the number 30 sitting P11. And Le Toureux Doré's premier driver, the number 63 of Apollyon, sits P12 without a time. You can see that he is just out on his flying lap now as he rounds Montreal corner. He's got the UKBB Ferraris ahead of him. The track has now gone from wet to damp. We may even see it climb up to green by the end of this session if everyone continues to stay out on track. We may even see them ditch those wet compound tyres for the dries. Of course, can't really tell the difference. They don't put lettering on the side of these tyres. Well, some of them have lettering and some of them don't. It's a bit of a confusing scenario to deal with. It's not like Formula 1 where there's clear indication on the side of the tyres of what we're dealing with today. I'd reasonably assume we're in some intermediate period now between the wets and the dries. Let's go on board though, with some of our drivers still out on the grid at the moment. We have the number 30 of Attended Genie in front of this car here, the number 22, who's just come off the track to let past the number 44. He's gone into the pits now. So let's go on board with Attended Genie, who's out through Coram Corner. A little bit of back-end trouble there for the Golf Audi on the run through Murray's to round out this flying lap. And he's some way off the pace at the moment, and he's going into the pits for his efforts. So let's look on board then with the next driver to cross the line with a valid lap time. The USG Motorsports Porsche, the number 1 of E39 car, who's looking to challenge for that pole position. He sits third fastest at the moment with 7 minutes to go in this qualifying session. It is so hard to keep up with what is going on. There is this, that and the other, as everyone in the top 8 is battling for that top 2 positions. Everyone wants a vie at the front row. Everyone more wants a vie at pole position. We see rounding that last corner down the centre straight. It's the second fastest time now for E39 Kai. He just can't seem to top the time of Paul 24's Porsche. He's still got some way to go. Speaking of Paul 24, round Rich's corner he goes now as he exits the pits to start his outlap. 6.5 minutes left to go. USG Motorsports' Private Joker now through Agostini corner. He's closely following the 44 ahead of him. And we'll go back on board with this little group of drivers later on as we see rounding Coram corner. So just flick through here is the number 51 of Neverleft, who's looking to start another flying lap. Now he was within a shot of pole position. He was within a shot of pole position in the last session, if that were qualifying. Of course, he was in one of the faster times of that session, if I'm not mistaken as well. If I just quickly double check what the timetables were at the end of free practice, he was the fastest of that session. So now all eyes sit on the 51. As he rounds Rich's corner, he's got the number 1 USG Porsche ahead of him at B39 Kai as he goes on the run into that open hairpin right at Montreal. And they're quick thinking from E39 Kai to let the golden Ferrari get past him. Didn't want any trouble with this little amount of time left in qualifying. You can see the sun starting to peek through and bounce off of that golden Ferrari. Little streaks of gold there starting to light up on E39 Kai's Porsche, and it's trouble for the 51 as he touches the grass. He's going to have to write that lap off and scrub the grass off his tyres and get ready for another lap. The time is very quickly dwindling now for the likes of the drivers on this grid you see before you. Paul 24 hangs on to that fastest time now. E39 Kai, the second fastest so far. Just Boris on his previous lap was a 153.745, the fastest time he's done so far, securing him in that top 5 position in P4. You can see he's some way up in his time though as he goes on the run round Palmer up to Agostini. Four and a half minutes we're looking at now by the end of this sentence is what we're looking at for the time remaining in this qualifying session. Around Hamilton corner, eponymously named as well for the 44 here. Round Oggies and up through Williams now. He's 8/10 up on his time. It's looking promising for the number 44, but you've got to think if he's improving on his time in the McLaren, what are the times being done for the Ferraris and the Porsches as well, which seem to be absolutely decimating the front row. And now through Brundle and Nelson corner, very close on the inside there for Just Boris. You can see the wheel just getting up over the curb. Nipped and tucked very well. Now we run through Coram corner. He's 1.3 seconds up. Looking at 1.4, maybe even 1.5. By the end of this corner, you can see he might even be looking at 1.6 round Murray's. It's very fast in the third sector for Just Boris as he rounds Murray's corner, and he's got this long straight now, 1.7 seconds. It'll just bleed around that mark as he gets down to that start-finish line. And where will he be? He will be the fastest at the moment. We've got 3.5 minutes left to go, but a formidable time of 1:52.042 for Just Boris. Absolutely sensational stuff. He stands alone in that McLaren against a tide of Italian and German dominance. And now we can really see how it's getting on with that, all things said and done. V Sparko sneaking himself up to the second fastest time. And Paul 24 taking the fastest time now, a 1:51.561, a whole 0.4 of a second faster than the time we just saw coming out of that McLaren. It's going to be real hard to keep up with what's going on your screen at the moment. You can see this is your current pole sitter with an improvement on his time out of Montreal. He's got Private Joker staring down the back end of the 24. E39 Kai with USG Motorsports is 1.5 seconds up as he rounds Coram Corner. He's 1.6, maybe looking at 1.7. You can see the time crawling up as he runs into Murray's, and it's 1.7 seconds as he crosses the last corner on the run down the centre straight. Where will he place now? He's P4 now with 2 minutes left to go. Is it pole position? It's second fastest for E39 Kai. A Porsche front row so far. Paul 24 leads with 0.4 of improvement on his time as he rounds Oggies up into Williams corner now. It's a shootout between McLaren, Porsche and Ferrari. You can see, where are the Ferraris now? So you can see there's Neverlift with 0.6 of improvement on his time as he rounds Montreal. 0.6 in the first two corners as he sits P6 with 1.5 minutes left to go of this qualifying session. It's chaos as a drying Snetterton lays claim to 12 drivers in full contention for that pole position, the first pole position of the season. And who will it go to? We will know in just 1.5 minutes time. You can see V Sparko, who's the fourth fastest at the moment, he was sitting on the precipice there of something truly great. He just invalidated his time on the exit of Palmer. It's disappointing there, but I think maybe he's got enough time to get across that start-finish line. He'll have to move heaven and earth in the next minute to try and get another lap in. There's Private Joker. He sits P11 at the moment, and he'll want to try and get himself up into the top 10 by the end of this session. E39 Kai is the third fastest now. Just Boris taking the second fastest time at 1:51.175. Let's get a look at the live timing charts there. You can see the freelancers at the moment with Porsche and McLaren sit in the front row. E39 Kai not too far away with USG Motorsport. UKBB Motorsport sitting P4 at the moment, but it's not over until the flag drops. You can see massive improvement of time there. 2.1 seconds for the likes of UKBB's Neverlift 2451 as he rounds Murray's corner. He's chasing the USG Porsche to the line. And is he the fastest? He's the second fastest of this session so far. 20 seconds left to go. He's got one more lap. Run or done. You see V Sparko still with an invalidated time. He's got 10 seconds to the line here. He might just get another lap in. He gets across the line just in time with 4 seconds to go. It's all or nothing for the UKBB team to try and secure that front row. Just Boris now with a 0.6 improvement on the run to the line. 0.5 as he just gets past the timing line. It's second fastest for Just Boris at the moment. Still pole position for Paul 24, who I believe is sitting in the pits as well. It's a shootout now, though. You can see on the track layout there, USG Motorsport and UKBB Motorsport interjected by a singular Lamborghini from Le TRR Doré. And crossing the start-finish line now, if I can just get him in time, is the number 22 with a 5-second improvement. He's third fastest when he crosses the line. It's sensational stuff for Private Joker to get up into the top 5 from P11. And here's his teammate, E39 Kai, sits P5 at the moment. He's got the 51 of Neverlift 2451 behind him as we come down through the bomb hole corner to Coram. And it is all to the line now. 1.7 seconds as he gets round Coram corner. Will he be looking at 1.8 by the exit of this corner? Yes, he will. And will it be 2 seconds when he gets round Murray's? Yes, it will. A run to the line now between these two. It's all or nothing to the line. It's UKBB versus USG crossing the line with pole position is E39 Kai. Can they do anything to stop him there? It doesn't look like it. Crossing the line with the third fastest time is Neverlift 2451. Now on the run to the line is the Le TRR ACC Lamborghini of Tips 1967 and the number 13 UKBB Ferrari. He crosses the line with the third fastest time. It's the front row lockout for Porsche. The freelance Porsche of pole 24 in the second position. E39 Kai with another triumphant pole position. V Sparko and Neverlift 2451 secure that second row away from Just Boris. USG's second driver, Private Joker, sits in P6. Le TRR ACC take P7 and P8. Tips and Apollyon locking out that row for Lamborghini. The Lexus duo of... I just need to double check what the acronym is. I keep getting the acronym wrong. I'm very sorry there to the Lexus duo. But DGK lock out that row. The number 69 and the number 88 of NLR Andy and Bass Monkey. Prince of Vinny takes P11 and Attended Genie in P12. What a spectacular qualifying session we just had. What a way to kick off the season. A whole second ahead was E39 Kai. There is the entire grid on your screen there. Look at the myriad of colours, shapes, brands. This is what we were aiming for 3 seasons. What a way to kick off the season, ladies and gents. I'm ecstatic here in the commentary box. I've never been this excited for a qualifying session. What a show. So it's all to play for in the hour of Snetterton for E39 Kai. What a phenomenal qualifying session for him. A whole second ahead of pole 24. Someone he didn't even think he was capable of touching last season when he entered with a real tour de force against everyone else on the grid. In the Porsche 911, he was one of only 3 drivers to be actively using it besides Neverlift and Private Joker. But already we can see that dynamic is starting to build up. In and amongst this war between these 2 rivaling teams, USG and UKBB, the Brits and the Americans going head to head on track. In and amongst this conflict is the 24 on the front row. Paul 24 taking P2. He'll have to contend with E39 Kai on that race start. It's Porsche v Porsche, and on that second row, it's a Ferrari lockout. What a spectacle you can see there. Those 2 bright gold Ferraris, absolutely gorgeous as well. And then rounding out the top 5 is one to keep a close eye on, the number 44 of Just Boris. USG's second car there, Private Joker in the 22 Porsche, sits P6. You can see Le TRR ACC, the French team racing in the Lamborghinis, have now locked out that third to last row. You can see the second to last row being locked out by the Lexus duo, as I mentioned before, of DKG Motorsport. Wow. So these teams are going to be clashing head to head. We've got Le TRR ACC versus DKG Motorsport. We've got UKBB versus USG. And in and amongst all of that, you've got these freelancers of Pole 24, Just Boris. You've got Attended Genie without his teammate AMG King, who sits alone in that Golf Audi. And we have Prince Vinny in a freelancer Ferrari. Well, with 4 minutes to go of this session start, I am well and truly excited for the first race of this season. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Hopefully, there's no rain. You can see on the forecast there, no scheduled rain. 30 degrees on track and green conditions. We're looking for a good show of racing with 3.5 minutes to go until the race starts. And I will return in just a moment. All of the talking, I am very, very thirsty. I will return in just a moment. Stay tuned. And we're back, ladies and gents. 2 minutes left to go until we see the green lights show and we go racing for the first time this season. Let's just see what's going on the stream itself whilst we got a little bit of empty air. You see joining us in chat as well is Tips and V Sparko. So that's one of the TRR drivers and one of the UKBB drivers as well. Good luck to both of you. We also seen 8 minutes ago Prince Vinny 50 in the Freelancer Ferrari. Also follow this channel. Thank you so much for the follow. Here we are, ladies and gents. A minute and a half before we see the lights go green and we go racing in Snetterton. An interesting thing to note about this circuit is, unlike many of the other circuits we've used throughout the Sprint Series, which are normally FIA Grade 1, Grade 1.5, whatever you want to call it, this is a Grade 2 circuit. This is hard tarmac. This isn't rated for open wheelers or for Le Mans prototypes. This was commonly used for British GT, British Touring Car, TCR UK, GB3, which is a subsidiary of Formula 3, the regional version for United Kingdom and British drivers. Not only that, we also had the British Superbike Championship. So we're dealing with a rougher track surface, and it's going to pay the price on these cars here, which are normally designed for the more pedicured, level surfaces of FIA Grade 1. We're going to see real trouble for this hour-long race. With 30 minutes to go, the engines will now fire up. And it's a symphony of 6, 8 and 10 cylinders throughout this grid. And what a fantastic spectacle it is.
20 seconds.
20 seconds to go, ladies and gents. So here we go. Attendagini did not get ready in time. He'll be taking a pit lane start. But now, rolling away from that front row is the Porsche duo. Separated by teams, but a duo of 992s nonetheless. Joining them behind is the UKBB Ferrari duo. We will round Coram Corner to Murray's. And down the centre straight, crawling at around 40 to 50 miles an hour. For the first race start of TRR's ACC Sprint Series for Season 3. And all eyes are on this. Nearly a collision there on the opening row. And now as we see them roll, double staggered up to the line at just 41 miles an hour. It's the first race of the season. And as we get to the timing line, we will go green and we're going racing in Snetterton. A fantastic start for both of the Porsche duo. We'll get a very close run down to Riches. You can see the Ferraris behind them. It's too wide over Riches. You can see Just Boris sneaking his way up to the top 6 positions there. He's battling for 6th and 5th at the moment. A little bit of trouble there with the menu. You can see there's the 2 UKBB Ferraris now in P3 and P4. Just Boris sits P5 in the McLaren. USG's Private Joker sits P6. And already off to a cracking start in this race. There's the Leturo duo in the Lamborghini. You can see Private Joker looking to get a run there on the McLaren of Just Boris around Agostini corner. He's going to go around the outside, the 22 versus the 44. Is he going to be able to get the space on him on the run down the Hamilton curve? No, he's not. Wow. What a race start there. It is no small feat for all the drivers to come out in one piece after that long sweeping right-hander where it closes up on the exit on the run to Montreal. Normally you will see cars bash wheels and come together and spin off. But a fantastic start nonetheless. USG leading out in the first lap here in the hour of Snetterton. You can see Pole 24 now challenging for that P1 on the run down through Brundle and Nelson's, I should say. Yeah, Brundle and Nelson corner. And there's the Ferrari duo just sticking to the back there, waiting for these two to trip over each other. The more twitchy and prone to flick oversteer for, Porsches versus the slightly more stable but a little bit flaky for understeer Ferraris. And it's a Porsche duo, a Ferrari duo, and a McLaren sandwiched in and amongst all of it. It's the thick of it there for the top 5 as we finish this first lap of what can only be described as many laps. 58 minutes left to go. It's 10:47 a.m. local, and the track is glowing with sunshine there. No trouble of rain, and no threat of rain so far. We'll get a look towards the second half. We can see it's starting to split off here. Base Monkey under siege there from Prince Vinny. It's Ferrari versus Lexus on the run down through Palmer, and the 63's off there. Looked like trouble for the 63 of Apollyon for Le TRR ACC, and it was. Unfortunately, I couldn't capture it in time there, but the 63 taking a bit of a spin-off round Palmer corner on the run to Agostini, and he'll sit P11. Attended Genie some 8 seconds behind him. His teammate now sitting up in P7, up in the scoring positions for this hour-long race. Already off with a bang here. We were expecting maybe a handful of offs. You can see the pack starting to separate now. And there is the Ferrari duo on the run down the Bentley straight. You can see lingering in the back there is the number 44 McLaren of Just Boris. As we get round Brundle and Nelson corner, a little bit of an off there for V Sparko. It's going to invite his teammate back in to stick in and amongst that slipstream. It's going to be a bit more of an F1 styled race with these long dominating straights like the Bentley and Senna straights, where the cars are going to want to be within earshot of one another to get those positions in. Speaking of being close to one another on the track, you can see down the center straight now, it's Porsche v Porsche, USG versus the Freelancer team. It's Kai versus Paul 24 on the run to Rich's corner. He's going to hold on to P1, but gets a little friendly over the curb. You can see when the suspension starts to bounce, it spells doom for the the Porsches. You see just how narrow the margins are between these two Porsches at the moment, and there is a position change between the two Ferraris. A little bit of back and forth between the 51 and the 13. Neverlift now moving to cover off the 44 and the 22. Kicking up some dust there in the face of Just Boris is the Ferrari duo of UK BB Motorsport. Already we can see there's another battle starting to unfold. Here's back here for 11th and 10th. This is the last of the scoring positions, and it's Apollyon on the inside, but he gets a little bit of snap oversteer in the Lamborghini, and it invites the Lexus back in. And that's NLR Andy back in the last of the point scoring positions for this race. You can see there's a trail of dust ahead of them. Someone was kissing the edge of the track there. It could have been trouble up ahead, and we will check as well. You can see E39 Kai holds on to that top position at the moment, but he is barely able to escape the grasp of Paul 24, who's only 0.3 of a second away from him. We'll take a look up ahead. Here's Base Monkey P9 at the moment. You can see Apollyon having another go for that P10 position. We missed it in and amongst all of that there. Apollyon getting P10 back off of NLR Andy. So now the Lexus duo under siege from the Le TRR ACC Lamborghini. There is your top 6, ladies and gents. 2 Porsches, 2 Ferraris, another Porsche in and amongst it, and a McLaren to round out that top 6. Now on lap 3. 54 minutes left to go. And we're barely in at all. Of course, you can see in the bottom left corner, the orange 1 next to everyone's name indicates the amount of mandated pit stops they have to take before the race ends. So, we'll be expecting pit stops towards the middle of this race, anywhere between 38 minutes and 26 minutes on average. As we've seen over the last 2 seasons, that's typically the window that the drivers will come in for the pits. Now, we've seen all manner of unorthodox strategy be adopted over the last 2 seasons. We've seen drivers pit almost towards the end or almost at the start. But we will see what goes on with this. A very short pit straight, I should add as well, runs parallel to that opening straight. And since it's designed for British GTs and for touring cars, you don't get nearly as much of a slowing down area as you would get on an FIA Grade 1 track, which were typically designed for prototypes and Formula 1 cars that would be rocketing themselves into that pit. Let's have a little look down here, and we see falling away a little bit from the Ferraris there. There's a little bit of trouble, I should say, towards P6 there. I missed it in and amongst all of that. Trouble for the 51, who's now P6. That's Neverlift, 2451. He must have taken a tumble in and amongst the top 5. Now sits just outside of it. That's an unfortunate way to start your race, but knowing Neverlift and the way that he races, I doubt it's the last time we'll see him in the top 5. Let's go on board with his teammate then, V Sparko, who's been left now without his teammate to defend against the approaching 44 and 22. So at the moment it's a bit of a conflicted bag for USG and UKBB as they're both being outdone. As I should say now, Pole 24 has seized the race lead this early on. You can see just how hard it is to keep track of everything that's going on. E39 Kai now fumbles that P1 away from Pole 24, who now goes on to lead this early on in the hour of Snetterton in round 1. Now round Oggie's corner there. Porsche's just sort of rubbing over the curbs. Now round Williams. You see though, hot on their trails, slowly inviting himself into this, is V Sparko. So will the UKBB Ferrari potentially have a go in the next couple of laps? If he sticks to this pace now, he's slowly starting to draw himself away from the McLaren. Trying everything that he can, of course, to keep himself away from the grasp of just Boris. To potentially have a go at getting P2 off of his championship rivals. See there, interjected between the two Le TRR Doré Lamborghinis is Base Monkey. So now it's DKG versus Le TRR Doré. You can see these two teams now battling for the last of the point scoring positions. We're here from P8 all the way to P11. It's Lexus versus Lamborghini in an unlikely matchup here round Murray's. Sticking very close to the back end of tips there. There goes Base Monkey. He's got the slipstream now. The Lexus has formidable straight line speed. You can hear the V8 screaming to keep up with that V10. We'll be maybe looking at two wide there as we get round Riches. Now he'll go back into single file. But on the run to Montreal, he's practically glued to the back end of tips there. He's going to have a dive on the inside at Montreal corner. Is he going to be able to make it stick? His teammate comes through as well. Apollyon now goes side on, and it's a ping-pong effect between the two Lamborghinis and the Lexus. Coming out on top of that, though, is the 88. So, DKG get their position that they wanted. P8 now for Base Monkey. His teammate, by proxy of the accident with the two Lamborghinis, now moves himself up into P10 and will have to defend that position off from the now wounded 63 Lamborghini, the Le TRR Doré car of Apollyon. Let's go on board with Private Joker. Sits out in P5 at the moment. Ahead of him, 2.3 seconds ahead of him is Just Boris. 4.6 seconds behind him is Neverlift 2451. Now Joker typically finds himself in and amongst the top 5, in and amongst the top 10 in the grander scheme, and always finds himself in the lonely race, where the drivers ahead of him are getting away, but the drivers behind him aren't catching up. And what is one to do when there is no one to race? And you can see there's a big plume of smoke there. That's the 13. It's the 13, so that's V Sparko that's come off track there. On the exit of the bomb hole corner, round Coram, was V Sparko. And now finds himself in P5. It's disaster in early doors here for UKBB. USG now with the dominant point scoring positions in the teams championship. Private Joker finding himself up in P4. E39 Kai trying to hold on to P2. And now back on board with this battle at the back. It's Le TRR Doré versus DKG Motorsport. Lexus and Lamborghini still head-to-head down the centre straight. You can see NLR Andy closing in on tips 1967 there as we go around Rich's corner. I'm getting that correctly. Yes, it is Rich's corner. And is he going to try to do what his teammate did just a lap before? No, he's thinking against it now. He doesn't want to get involved in another incident where the Lamborghinis snap oversteer out of corners when they try to overdo the throttle. Now, around Palmer corner, you can see he's keeping a modest distance away from the car behind him and the car in front. Almost level pegging there. You can see just around half of a second between all of the cars in this line here. You can see where some manufacturers have flourished under the new regulations, like that of Porsche. You can see the battle is now starting to get back on for P1. E39 Kai in attack mode now, chasing down Paul 24 on the exit of Nelson corner. They'll be coming around Coram corner in just a moment's time. A little bit of a flick there for Paul 24 as he's now having to try and move heaven and earth to keep the USG car out of his sight lines as we go around Murray's. 12 corners, can't remember any of the names of them. It's just how it is. Down the centre straight goes Paul 24. You can see E39 Kai hot on his trails now. He'll be in the slipstream, and these two Porsches, they do lack for straight line speed. It was an issue they had last season. It's an issue they seem to continue to have this season. You can see the times are roughly on level pegging here between the top 5, all looking at 149s in some astonishing turn of fate here. You can see E39 Kai hanging on to the back end of Paul 24. You can see looming in the background is just Boris in the number 44. Attended Genie now in the pit. Is this his race over this early on? We're not even at the halfway point. Maybe he's coming for new tyres. The engine is off and he's gone. So that is the end of the race for Attended Genie in the Golf Audi. An unfortunate end to his first race in GT. Let's keep a live update here with these two. The UK BB Motorsports team, the first team to fully adopt the use of the Ferrari 296. Of course, the replacement model for Ferrari's aging 488, which was only very loosely an improvement on the 458. Only opting in for a new engine that blew up over an engine that overheated. But the V6 platform doesn't seem to be letting these two down. It seems to be the setup so far, as these two have struggled to keep the car out of the grass. You can see with the track temperatures, the track is on fast. It's the second highest condition you can get. We've got no crosswinds, and the track is a tad toasty at 30 degrees. And you can see if they just stick to their guns, they stay close to each other, they work as a team, they're now closing the gap up to Private Joker, who sits P4, and he's some way away from that top 3 position at the moment. He's having to focus on his own battles here, as if these two get past, it invites UKVB back in for that title charge early doors in the championship. 9 rounds in the Sprint Series before we get underway for what is considered, by us at least, to be the largest project we've ever undertaken in TRR's history so far. That being the Endurance Series, where we'll see these two return. We'll see Neverlift return with myself in the Ferrari SPA team. V Sparko will don the BMW suit once more when he races for the Bavarian Masters division. Private Joker will stick to his guns with Porsche, if I'm led to believe correctly. And let's hope that we can see quite a few of these drivers from this already quite competitive grid return in the Endurance Series. Only time will tell, of course. We are just a few months away from the largest project in TRR's current history. Let's keep a live track as well on this unfolding battle. It's been going on for a few laps now. Leto versus DKG Motorsport. And with the fastest time as well, I should add, in this run for the leading position, Kai has set the fastest lap. He didn't set it this lap, or the last lap for that matter. But he is hunting down Paul 24. He's trying to stay within a second of him so he can get some of that slipstream down the centre and Bentley straights. He seems to be dropping away, perhaps sitting in the dirty air for a little too long, and now is just starting to pick up a few road marbles here and there. The tyres are starting to grain up. And he'll be hoping for a miracle here. He gets a little bit wide on the exit of Murray's. That's going to invite about 4/10 of a second now to appear between himself and the car in front. 1.5 as we get across the start-finish line. You can see that is the difference in pace at the moment. It was a whole 7/10 of a second that separated these two last lap. You see closing on him. He's some 4.5 seconds away. Is just Boris, who was about a tenth faster last lap than the car on screen at the moment. The two-time champion in TRR Sprint Series, E39 Kai. Kai has had a very competitive history in TRR as well, being the runner-up on the first championships with the MX-5 Cup, placing himself second in class and second overall. In the DTM series, he was racing for the winning manufacturer and ended up picking up his first constructors title when he raced for BMW Motorsport, alongside his previous sort of comrade in arms for GT, V Sparko, and myself. Kai also briefly dipped his toes into Formula 1 when him and V Sparko entered the Italian Grand Prix in Season 1 of the custom teams with the ProDrive Formula division. Unfortunately, it was regarded by both of them as somewhat of a disaster. E39 Kai beaching himself on the formation lap, trying to avoid one of the ASL cars, and V Sparko ended up warping the fabric of space-time with a very high latency ping. You see, in and amongst all of my inane ramblings there, a whole second has now appeared between the top two. And just Boris has only managed to squeeze about 6 to 7 tenths of a second off of his delta. Let's keep a close eye though, because things are heating up at the back for the last of these point scoring positions. These are vital positions now. We'll be looking at between Apollyon and Base Monkey. There's NLR Andy in the background now, rounds out the point scoring positions. You can see Tips hanging back in P11. I might be wrong as well. I don't actually know how many scoring positions there are in this, because it's a different point scoring convention that I don't handle. It's not FIA standard because we decided to make the points gap narrower in order to enforce more competitive championship battling. But now, down the centre straight, it's side by side. You can see they're nearly locking wheels. They're nearly bumper to bumper. And it's a spin. It's a massive spin. And he's over on his roof. Oh, my goodness. What on earth has just happened between DKG and Le TRR Doré down the centre straight? It was a car on its side. And that may just be the end of the road for Apollyon there, as he nurses this injured Lamborghini back round Rich's corner. And the 88 there of the DKG Lexus of Base Monkey has seen better days, as he is all the way off in the grass, taking a rally cross line out of Montreal. This may be the end of the road for him too. You can see just how battered in the front end of that Lexus was. That was insane. That may have just been the biggest crash we've ever seen in TRR. Let's get a replay on that as well. Hopefully we don't miss nothing out at the moment, but it looks like it was probably the end of the road for these two. Let's get on board with the number 88. And to those of you watching with epilepsy, I do profusely apologise for the flashing imagery. But I really wish you could skip by laps, but of course it just doesn't let you do that. Oh my goodness. That may have just been the biggest crash we've ever seen. So let's go on board with the 88 now, as we go round Murray's corner. Apollyon gets the run, and now looks towards the inside. The Lexus moves to cover him off. They end up joining and spinning around. He goes through him, I should add, and the Lexus is spinning around. The Lamborghini is on its side, nearly on its roof. It spins across the centre straight. There goes NLR Andy on the inside, avoiding his stricken teammate. You can see back there is Tips as well, looking to avoid the carnage. What on earth has happened? Wow. Let's get a look on board with Andy's car as well, I should add. He's probably got the premier view of this race, or this racing incident, I should add. So let's just pause here. And now, if we can find the camera. So there, in front of him is the 63 and his teammate in the 88. You see the 88 moves to cover him off, and he ends up spinning into the wall, and it just unfolds like chaos in front of him. Narrowly avoids colliding with his own teammate. You can see the Lamborghini getting back on all four wheels, sliding off into the crash barriers there. It's a cloud of dust. He takes out the first couple of braking boards, nearly slides back onto the track. Wow. That was insanity. And you can see now, as we rejoin the coverage, Base Monkey is in the pits. Whether this is the end of the line, we don't know. Same story for Apollyon, who is now in P10. These are the two last positions of this race. It looks like Base Monkey, yeah, he's getting lapped now by everyone on the grid. And now let's go on board with Enelorandi, who's left to pick up what remains. He's P8. The last remaining Le TRR ACC in points contention. Well, the last two are behind him. Apollyon's car badly damaged as well. We can see Paul now pulling a near 3-second gap away from E39 Kai to continue his race lead. As we're approaching the halfway mark now, we'll be looking at more of the pit windows. Just Boris sits P3 at the moment. Private Joker with USG Motorsports is... where is he? He's under siege at the moment from the Ferrari duo. So in and amongst all of this chaos, Ferrari have picked up a little bit of pace. And you can see with the USG in front of them, they're now seeing red. And they're hunting down that Porsche. They want P4 and they want that team's lead. Let's go on board then with V Sparko. You can see, if you look on the spoiler view, you can see his teammate in tow. That's Neverlift 2451. So we've got the 13 and the 51. Now chasing down the 22 like a pack of hungry dogs. Around Williams' corner, you can see the tyre deck really starting to get on for it as the cars are now having to lift off more, lift and coast to keep the tyres in check. And now trying to swerve to break the tow here as we go into Brundle and Nelson. Very slow for the USG. It's going to invite the UK BBs in. It's Britain versus America again. And now, through Coram Corner, the Porsche is waning. It is starting to really hurt now. We're on board with the dash view of the number 13. As we go into Murray's corner, he's going to try and sweep around the outside. He takes to the grass, has to rejoin the track there, fumbles the move. Apollyon has now come into the pits to take his mandatory pit stop and has now received a stop-go 30-second penalty. So it's absolute bedlam going on now as we're 11 laps in, 35 minutes to go of the opening race of the season. That was a huge crash between the DKG Lexus and the Le TRR ACC Lamborghini. To me, it looks like the DKG tried to cover off that move from Apollyon, but just timed it a little too late, and they ended up clipping one another. He went in at the wall, and it just bounced that Lamborghini off of him. If that were in real life, that Lamborghini would have actually flown over the roof of that Lexus, akin to something you would have seen at Le Mans in the 90s. Wow, that was quite violent. But now, let's go back on board with this battle. Private Joker looking to defend P4 off from the hungry duo now of the UK BB Ferrari duo. It's USG versus UK BB now down the Bentley straight. Speaking of US versus UK, we might be seeing an American colleague from the World Endurance Championships be making their debut in the Fanatec GT Series somewhere down the line, as Corvette announced, with the new regulations coming into effect next year in 2024, that they will start producing a GT3 variant of the C8 Corvette. What this means in tow is that we can now see... Oh, I should interrupt myself there. Private Joker's fumbled Murray's corner, and there goes both the Ferraris. Down the centre straight, it's still side by side, the 22 versus the 51. Who will come out on top out of Rich's corner? You can see V Sparko has moved himself up into P4 now. Private Joker has had to forfeit the position. So now it's from P4 to P6 in just a corner. That's got to sting a little bit, but he's not done yet. He's going to go on the inside at Montreal. Is he going to be able to cover off the move from Neverlift as we go down to Palmer? Yes, he is. He's fighting back. Very wide now. You can see just how hard he's having to push the Porsche to its limit to try and keep it on the tyres. Try and keep it on the track as well, I should add. If we go around Agostini corner, the Ferraris are struggling barely by comparison. Now the Ferraris, of course, already a tried and tested platform, the 296, and there he goes. There is Nebula 2451 getting the move in, and they touch there around Oggie's corner. And that was quickly resolved on its own. It just seemed like a little bit of brake failure from the 22 there. That's quickly been resolved on its own as we're around Williams' corner now. I believe Apollyon is in the pits taking a stop-go 30-second penalty. You can see on the map there, the gap is starting to open up between the top 4. You can see the number 13 some way from the 44, some way from the 1, and some way from the 24. But the battle that we're looking at today is for the top 5, the last of those top 5 point scoring positions of available 10, I believe. I will actually double check this whilst I ramble here. You can see Private Joker's tyres are really starting to hurt now. Maybe he'll be considering a pit stop around this time. Time will only tell. He's going to avoid that pit entrance though. None of the main drivers in this top 6 have actually considered a pit stop yet. The Ferraris don't seem to be struggling at all. They struggled in the early doors of the race when the cars started to flick out. But now as the tyres have bedded, they seem to be on top form. If they had not had those mistakes at the start, we may even have seen Ferrari competing at the top step early doors in this race. At the moment, that privilege goes to Porsche. So we'll just double check. So it is actually, yeah, just the top 10 positions, if I'm not mistaken, that are in points scoring contention. The fastest driver, well, the P1 driver getting 20 points over the FIA allocated 25 that you see in series like Formula 1, GT, and World Rally, funnily enough, also use this scoring convention. Speaking of World Rally, I'm not sure if I informed anyone of this when I was going through my sort of this just in on motorsport segment in practice. Whilst we got a little bit of open air, just another thing to add as well. Toyota took their second year running 1-2-3-4 finish in Safari Rally Kenya. And they seem to be on real top form for another Constructors' Championship. Kalle Rovanperä leads the championship. I believe his teammate Elfyn Evans sitting in second in the Drivers' Championship. Well, let's go back on board with the here and the now in this 1 hour race at Snetterton, which has now become 30 minutes. We'll see. There was the gap in pace there. It was about 0.3 of a second between E39 Kai and Pole 24 on the last lap just then. E39 Kai, I believe, still holds on. Yes, he does. He still holds on to the fastest lap of this race, which is a 1:48.888. Lucky number, that. I think. Might be 777. Don't know. Don't gamble. Here we see with E39 Kai, though, as he rounds Palmer Corner. And he's 4 seconds away from the lead here. He's always had this way around pit stops and pit strategy that has always nabbed him race wins. But now he may really be under threat here. His perseverance and his know-how of these pit strategies is really going to be put to the test here, as he seems to have met his match in the form of Pole 24, another Porsche that is blitzing this Snetterton 300. Just Boris in the lonely race as well. 6.8 seconds in front of him is P2 and 8.4 seconds behind him is P4. Just Boris looks to be on an easy, breezy finish for P3, all things considered. If he sticks to his guns, keeps good pace and gets a good pit stop in with no fuss, it looks like a very easy podium to start the season off with for Just Boris. It really does seem like the competition has opened up here, as now we're not just seeing one driver run off with it. Pole 24 did have to fight quite hard for that P1, and he's still got a long way to go. With 29 minutes to go, we're still looking at the back end of this pit window. We've still got pit stops to cover off with, and it's not like Formula 1 where typically it balances itself out because of how fast the pit stops are. No, the pits for GT are much, much longer, with a tyre change taking up to 20 to maybe 30 seconds. You can see Private Joker now trying to scrape just a little bit more time on this pair of dry compound tyres to the car in front, but he just can't seem to get it done. A 150.025 over a 150.750. He's losing 7 tenths a lap on average to the car in front. So perhaps it's time for Joker to come in for those new tyres, or perhaps that's what he's wanting everyone to think when he tries to run the tyres out for longer. Another lonely race now that he's got all the battling said and done is Paul 24. Of course, like I said, it's not over. We've still got pit windows and 28 minutes of racing left to go. This could all crumble in his hands just as much as it could all fall into his hands. Only time will tell. It's make or break moments in motorsport that define race wins. You can see there's your top three on the Bentley Straight. On the left-hand side of your screen there, you can see going up the Bentley Straight on the left-hand side of the track is the 24, the 1 and the 44. There's your top three. And now, just squeaking into the top four now is V Sparko lapping the 88 of the DKG Motorsports Lexus of Base Monkey. Still holds on to P10 after that astonishing crash. You can see the Lexus back in good condition and in the points, I should add. Though the last of the point scoring percent. Oh, I should say that. Where's the Lexus off to? The Lexus has gone completely wide. It almost looked like he was trying to torpedo the number 13. Of course, I don't think he was. But it looked like his brakes just weren't working when he went into Brundle and Nelson Corner. It looked like real trouble there for Base Monkey. He's just had to let the 51 get past him. So now both of the UK BB cars in the top 5. They've been in the top 5 for some time now, and they just seem to try and shake off. You can see there in the background on the run down the centre straight behind that Lexus is the USG Porsche of Private Joker. So it looks like, even though despite E39 Kai having that second position, he's going to be in serious trouble come the first tally of the team points here, as UKBB hold on to those two vital top 5 scoring positions. Is where you want to put yourself and your teammate at all times, regardless of where it is in the top 5. You'd ideally aim for a top 2 if I had to guess, but given their rocky start, they've already pushed themselves back into roughly where they qualified. With the obvious exemption now of having just Boris ahead of them instead of behind. You can just see there, I came up on the left-hand side of my screen, that's Prince Vinny coming in to the pits there. He's one of the first drivers to take his pit stop besides Apollyon and Base Monkey that got involved in that huge crash down the centre straight. I'm astonished that I believe Apollyon is he still running? I don't believe he is. I'm looking on the track here. Let's just quickly double check. Yeah, that's so out of this scrap here, it looks like the likes of Base Monkey has emerged on top here. His teammate NLR Andy with DKG Motorsport yet to take his pit stop. Sits P7 at the moment, so both of them in the points. Still a good start over there now. Very obviously known rivals, Le TRR. It's going to be not only a battle for points in the championship between these two, it's going to be a battle for the lead between the likes of USG Porsche, which you see here, and speaking of USG Porsche, I should say, there's E39 Kai, and there's V Sparko. So now, there's a UKBB Ferrari going out ahead of him in the pit box. E39 Kai has already been in on the pit stop. And it's really going to depend on what strategy they go with. There's his teammate, Private Joker, coming into the pits to take his pit stop. And there you can see the air jacks have dropped. There goes E39 Kai out of the pits. And he has now boxed himself onto brand new tyres. And it'll be 24 minutes to the line for him on these tyres. You can see there's NLR Andy going in to the pit box. Where was I saying? And yes, you also have the likes of the UKBB team with Ferrari. Neverlift now pushing himself up to P3. Of course, he's yet to take his pit stop. It's likely that they were trying to avoid both going in at the same time and making themselves vulnerable on pit exit. Neverlift opting to stay out for a couple more laps to maybe just the one. At the moment, ahead of him, 13 seconds ahead of him as well, is just Boris. And Paul 24 is 25 whole seconds ahead of him. So let's see what's going on in the top two. There's NLR Andy now exiting the pits. Let's just scroll through to see what's going on. Here's Paul 24, who's stayed out for yet another lap. And we can see on the map there as well that Just Boris has also stayed out for another lap. They look to be going very late with this pit stop strategy. Now, it's not going to be doing them much good. You can see on the map there, the 51 that is currently looking like he's staying out. Yes, he is. He is staying out. I should say as well, his teammate, the 13, now has open air ahead of him. He's got Tips in front of him, physically in front of him, I should say as well. Oh no, actually in front of him. Tips has also stayed out and is now up in P5. vSparko has some way to catch up. He'll probably overtake him when he goes into the pits, but he's now got a lot of open, clean air to get times in on that Ferrari, get those tyres up to temperature, and keep on a faster than average pace. So now that gap that they have in their mind after this pit stop is coming down. And that is the same story for E39 Kai, who is just going to be waiting now, as he's got those tyres up to temperature. His last lap was a 155.068, which is very fast. Actually, is it? No, it's not. I lied. That's very slow. Very slow. Couldn't actually see his fastest time there because my party overlay interjects with the top left corner of the screen. Couldn't see, but not very fast. But this is most likely his first official flying lap. You can see as he comes down to Agostini corner, he's looking at 0.2 of a second already, 0.3 of a second. Back down to 0.2 and just crawling on the top end of a 0.1. They're getting up for a middle 0.2 of a second now as he goes down to Oggies after the exit of Hamilton corner. I am reading those correctly. Yeah? Yes, it is Oggies corner. I'm not schizophrenic. So now around the Williams corner. And he's losing some of that time out. You can see he's bouncing on and off the line here. So this might be all to play for E39 Kai. As you can see, Just Boris and Paul 24 have both come into the pits. There's Paul 24 coming to a stop in the pits now. Just Boris is going to have a little bit more distance before he has to shut the engine off. Both of these two now sitting dormant. Neverleft just behind them as well. And there he moves himself in between the two for his pit box. So now it is a race against time. There goes Paul 24. A little bit of oversteer as he exits the pits there, lighting the rear tyres up, getting a little bit of heat in them before he gets to that pit limit line. He's got past it now. You can see crawling in the background there is E39 Kai. He's hunting him down. He did a 149.1 last lap. And now Paul 24 has to get those tyres up to temperature. You can see the gap is coming way down now. It's 4.5 seconds over the previous, I think it was about 6 seconds before they were separated by those pit windows. 424 is going to need to make no mistakes here, as is Kai. It's going to have to be flawless runs from the two of them if they hope to gain an advantage on either side. You can see there that Tips is yet to come into the pits as well. He sits P4 at the moment. So provisionally we have vSparko and Neverlift in P4 and 5. They currently sit P5 and 6. Once Tips has taken his pit stop, obviously, then we move up a position. Let's go look back at the DKG team. These are the two. These are the two Lexus cars. They now sit P9 and P10. Prince Vinny out ahead of them. The number 50, 21 whole seconds ahead of the car you see on screen at the moment. The number 69 Lexus of NLR Andy. Now for the first race, amidst all of the setbacks here in the form of that battle with the Lamborghini duo, they've actually come out all right here. They may even stand to gain maybe another cheeky position. There you can see Tips with Le TRR ACC all the way up in P4. You can see vSparko right behind him. Now Tips is probably going to be thinking for an ultra late pit stop. He's just trying to get the last out of those tyres. He's the last of the two Lamborghinis to take to this track at the moment. And he's got a Ferrari right on him. And oh, it was a bit of a back end collision through Murray's as he gets on the brakes too early. He gets pushed off to the grass. That's a little bit controversial there between the 13 and the 67. There goes the 13. not looking to waste any more time. There goes Tips into the pit box before he's even crossed the line. There goes Neverlift past him. So P4 and P5 for the Ferrari duo. And there goes Private Joker. You're about to hear the flat 6 whirring past. There he goes. There's the 22 going past to take P6. Prince Vinny now on the hunt down past Murray's corner. The 50 now soaring down that opening straight, and he'll be taking that position off of Tips as well. The question being is the 69 and the 88, which you can see are now just completing sector 3 on the map. Will they both be able to get past that Lamborghini? Or will only one of them? You can see the 69 of NLR Andy rounding Murray's corner now. And will Tips also have to repair some of the damage he may have incurred on that rear end collision with the Ferrari? This is also going to be trouble if the Ferrari itself has taken damage as well. See, Paul 24 continues to lead this hour-long race at Snet. And 4.7 seconds is what divides himself and E39 Kai. Yeah, that's real trouble for E39 Kai. Normally takes to the top step quite frequently. There's a little bit of dust there, got kicked up, I believe, from the 24 out of Murray's corner. Just using every inch of the track that he can. And that was the fastest time, a 1:48.657 from E39 Kai. So now on the warpath to hunt down Paul 24 with 16 minutes left to go. Who will emerge victorious in this opening race when the flag drops? And moreover, you've got that drama in the Teams Championship. This is the USG car out in front for that battle. It's interjected by a handful of freelancers that have yet to get their teams going. I don't believe we have teammates for Paul 24 and Just Boris. I believe they're running this one solo. Of course, that can be rectified if they were to say so. But from what I was looking at there, from the information I had on hand for this stream, don't believe they have any teams going on. So the current battle is between the likes of USG, manned by E39 Kai and Private Joker, and UKBB, manned by the like of Neverlift 2451 and V Sparko. And there's Paul 24 just getting past Tips now. You can see lingering in the background, there's the number 1 as we go through Brundle and through Brundle and Nelson's corner. And now E39 Kai has to get himself around the number 67, and will it be as easy as he thinks? Well, we'll find out in a moment's time. You can see that the gap really hasn't closed itself down, nor has it opened itself up between the top two at the moment, and now stuck in the middle of it is the car in P9. Tips 1967, who's gone wide at Montreal to let that Porsche get through. He's done him quite the favour there as he stays positive on, or negative I should say, on Delta. It's 4.8 seconds. We're looking at just shy of 5 seconds that separates the top two with 14 minutes left to go. So not much has changed 24 laps in as we had from perhaps 3 or 4 laps in. And there's just Boris on the lonely drive for P3 at the moment. He's 13 seconds away from P2 and 14 seconds away from P4. So this is where it starts to stretch out and the race starts to stagnate a little bit. Now a lot of the battling has been run and done, and now we're just on a run to the line. You can see the physical gap there on your map down the Bentley Straight. There's your gap between the 24 and the 1 as we go through Brundle and Nelson's corner. We're watching on board now with Tips 1967 with the Le TRR car as he goes round Brundle and Nelson's himself. So let's see what the times are looking like as we get round Murray's corner. A little bit of touch and go on the curb. Well, not the curb there, on the gravel on the exit of the curb there. A 148.5 over a 148.5. It's very level between these two. With 13 minutes to go, it's who's really going to be able to stay on that kind of pace, because the moment you step off of it is when that gap starts to rapidly close itself down. These are two drivers at the peak of their performance this early on in a race. It's two drivers that are now flat out against each other. Bit of grass as well. You can see Kai's having to use every possible inch of the track to try and get that time that he needs, and it seems that his time's starting to drop away. 5.2 seconds now separates himself from P1. 5.3 in the ballpark of 5.4, and now overtaking Base Monkey there. I think he's actually pushed himself even further than what I'm assuming he's done so far. Let's go on board then with Paul 24. Yeah, he's 5.6 seconds, but he's getting himself over the curbs just as much as well. That's out of the bomb hole corner on the run to Coram. Not really 100% what I call that. Because of course this is my first time covering Snetterton, as much as it is the first time for these drivers to be racing them in the Sprint Series. We're having a lot more tracks this season from the American and British lineups, so we'll be seeing races not only here, we'll also be seeing races in the likes of Watkins Glen in the United States, and Indianapolis as well, which I'm greatly looking forward to, as I believe it's one of the more underrated tracks. It's definitely one of the more tough tracks as well, being a rejected Formula One circuit, but it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers take it. So let's have a look at the calendar as well whilst we watch on board with Paul 24. Doesn't look like much is unfolding here on track. You can see sort of state of affairs have not really changed dramatically over the last couple of minutes of coverage, but this is round one, of course, round one of 9 races, and this season concludes in around September time when the Endurance Series is set to get underway. We've got round one, of course, in Snetterton, July 15th. Next weekend we have Misano. The week after we have Zolder, then Kota, Donington, Watkins Glen, Indianapolis, Paul Ricard, and we round out this season in Spa-Francorchamps. So I'm greatly looking forward to seeing how these drivers take the more mixed and varied lineup of tracks that we don't often actually use at all. I believe this might be, with the exemption of Spa-Francorchamps and Misano and Zolder, this is actually a completely fresh calendar, and it will be the first time in an official setting where we see these drivers go head-to-head on these tracks. So keep an eye out for, well, obviously every round of the season, but for unique races and first of their kind. Have a look at round 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because that whole 5-round sort of chunk of this season are all brand new to TRR tracks. We've got the run in Kota on July 29th. On August 5th we have Donington. August 12th is Watkins Glen. August 19th is Indianapolis. And August 26th is Paul Ricard. As I was saying that as well, I just saw that the number 24 was bouncing a little bit over the curbs there, but not really done much to diminish the gap between himself and E39 Kai. It looks like Paul 24 might just go on to a pretty easy cruise in the last 9 minutes. He's setting the fast lap. The fastest lap was last lap of 148.345. Doesn't really seem to have diminished the gap at all. It kind of looks like an easy run to the line then for Paul 24 with 9 minutes to go of the Hour of Snetterton here in Season 3 of TRR's ACC Sprint Series. If you're joining us now, first of all, you're late, but welcome nonetheless. We have 8 minutes left to go. We had a massive crash between the DKG Motorsports Lexus and the TRR ACC Lamborghini team. That occurred probably about 20 laps ago. It was the largest crash we've ever seen in TRR, I should add as well. A spectacular crash as well. A Lamborghini spinning across the The Grade 2 tarmac of Snetterton on its side. Currently leading the race is Paul 24, who joined us in the latter half of last season. He cemented himself as a championship contender, always being up in the top 3 and setting many a pole position in the waning half of the season. His main rival was Just Boris, who sits P3, and our 2-time champion E39 Kai sits P2. Rather begrudgingly, after a short-lived battle between himself and Paul 24. You can see he's starting to lose a little bit of the pace now in the last laps of this race. 7 minutes, or just under 8 I should say, left to go before the flags drop and we are able to crown our first winner of this season. 9 weeks we have now of GT3 racing. We're back on the calendar. Not only that, our open wheel series is alive and kicking. Last week, unfortunately, we weren't able to cover the Qatar Grand Prix for season 2 or 3. Can't actually remember. I think we were going to run an intermediate season, but I think this is now season 2 of our Custom Teams Championship. Minardi took the inaugural race win. Just Joe 16 took the inaugural race win for Minardi. Joining him on the podium as well was Primix in the Brawn GP team. Rounding out the top 3 was our very own rCookie 14 on a low fuel mode as he crossed the line with barely enough fuel to get him to Parc Fermé. Tomorrow, on the grounds that I'm not going to Silverstone, which looks likely at the moment, we'll be covering the Chinese Grand Prix. So we'll be able to see, if Alvin shows up, maybe some more Audi action. As unfortunately he didn't show last week out in Qatar. But it looks like it'll be a stern battle between Minardi and Brawn. Did not think I'd be saying that. But that's the very nature of the series we do. It's all unorthodox. If you're wondering how I have the energy to ramble like a telemarketer for an hour long, drink Red Bull. This isn't a paid promotion. Just drink Red Bull. It's really good. Don't drink too much of it though, because heart attack. Regardless, now round Rich's corner is E39 Kai. And that gap is only grown larger from about 6 seconds a few laps ago to 6.5 seconds as he rounds Montreal corner now. Just Boris is 13 whole seconds behind, so it's a comfortable P2 for E39 Kai. Let's go look on board with Just Boris, the only driver on this grid to be running the brand new McLaren 720S Evo. And it seems to have proven already that it's a capable machine, one that perhaps requires a little bit more refinement than its German and Italian counterparts, but has already cemented the British firm as one to keep an eye on. McLaren are back, and they're here to stay. Speaking of McLaren being back, if any of you were watching the Grand Prix qualifying for the real-life British Grand Prix today, you would have been surprised to find that in the second and third positions behind Max Verstappen was Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in the McLaren MCL 60, painted to look like one of McLaren's older MP4-2 2X era cars. A homage to their old school Vodafone livery. And it looks promising because they'll be lining up behind the Dutchman in one of the, I think, the highest qualifying position of the season for them. But let's focus back to the here and the now. You can see there the gap's really not dropping between these two, and it looks like it will be a comfortable opening win here for Paul 24, begrudging P2 for E39 Kai, and more so he'll be under threat in the team's championship as he's in the highest scoring position possible for the USG cars at the moment. His teammate Private Joker sits behind their rivals of the UK BB Ferrari Motorsports team. These two golden-clad Ferraris of Neverlift 2451 and V Sparco sit in P4 and 5. So they sit in the last of those scoring positions for the top 5, which are pivotal for championship contention. Private Joker just squeezed out of that top 5. Though I'm sure it's not the last time he'll be in the top 5. He's in a a consistent pace. He's been in consistent form all of last season, where he was able to pick up many a top 5 victory. He was even within contention for race wins every now and again. Of course, he has won a race in TRR. He won out in Misano in Season 1 of this Sprint Series some few months ago. Neverlev 2451, which you see on your screen here as well, is also a race winner, winning out in Zandvoort last season when he raced for Porsche. His teammate V Sparko won his first ever race in GT, winning out in Spa when he drove for BMW. Not only that, he won last season in Brands Hatch. Oh, not in Brands Hatch, in Zolder, my mistake. It's going to be double time for these two because they'll be hunting down another championship by any means necessary. And for the team's championship, it's almost its own thing. It's a brand new thing because it's not necessarily a constructors. It's a joint shared championship that these two will be able to revel in should they take the crown. In fact, I believe I'm going to be making a new role to show off that they're a team's champion, as they don't necessarily classify as a constructors. We have other teams on here and other drivers that use the same cars. Let's scroll through here. And you can see spinning around in the background there. I'm going to interrupt myself before I get back onto that. That was Base Monkey taking a tumble there out of Murray's corner. But fortunately, he's back on the road and running in P10. His teammate NLR Andy sits up in P8. Sandwiched in between the two of them, if I'm not mistaken, is Tips, 1967, the Le TRR Lamborghini driver, against the two DKG Lexus cars. So back on what I was saying, you see a little bit of damage on the front end for Private Joker. I'm not really sure what has happened there, but he holds on to P6. Prince Vinny, who I was trying to find, is also in a Ferrari. But he doesn't count towards a Constructors' Championship because we don't have one. You only have 3 drivers in the Ferrari. You have 4 drivers in the... actually, you have 3 drivers in the Porsche as well. You have only 2 drivers in the Lexus. And you have... well, you had 2 drivers in the Lamborghini and only 1 driver in the McLaren. So it wouldn't be fair. That is why we have the 2-man teams. It's a way for us to make up for the fact that we're staggering the number of available vehicles by supplementing it with a whole new form of championship title. Rounding out on that, now, let's go on board with the 24 for the final lap of this hour of Snetterton. With 40 seconds on the clock now, it's the final lap of this spectacular opening race. And it looks like it'll be a top form finish, as he's now 8 seconds from E39 Kai in the USG Porsche. You can see it's been a phenomenal opening race for Paul 24, and he's had his fair share of troubles last season when he first joined up in the previous generation Porsche 911. But it seems that in and amongst all of this struggle to get into teams and to get into groups and to form the basis for this team's championship, he doesn't need a team. He can easily just play by himself. And it's a one-man show on a one-man team so far for Paul 24 as he rounds Williams' corner for the last time in this hour of Snetterton and takes to the Bentley straight. And it's been a fantastic show of force here, and one definitely to keep an eye on is Paul 24 now for the rest of this season. It wasn't luck that got him to the top step, it was skill, and he battled tooth and nail for that P1. And as he rounds Coram corner to Murray's for the last time, he stands alone, one man against an army. Paul 24 is going to cross the line in just a few seconds' time and will be the first winner of this season. Paul 24 crosses the line now and wins the hour of Snetterton. You can see E39 Kai running to the line now. He'll take second. And coming round Murray's now is just Boris, who'll take P3. And let's look some way down the order here. Up in P4, in the highest position so far this season for him, is Neverlev 2451, who escapes the podium but will remain in the top 5. A fantastic start for UKBB Motorsport and for Ferrari. After that uncertain start that almost spelt doom for the rest of the race, the UKBB team will come out in the top 5. In the top 5? Well, where's Sparko gone? Well, where's he gone? What happens to V Sparko? As we see now in top 5 is Private Joker. As he rounds the bomb hole corner, as he goes to Coram, where is the number 13? What happened to the number 13? Where has he gone? We can't see him. We can't find him. And it looks like it's going to be disaster for UKBB when they're down a driver. Because in P5, back into the top 5 where he belongs is Private Joker with USG Porsche, and he crosses the line for P5. So where did Sparko go? Where did he go to? You can't see him. You look on the list there, and he's missing. So UKBB have lost one of their drivers in the last couple of laps, and now USG have that points advantage, P2 and P5 over just P4, and they'll be at the top of the teams championship come the points tally. So there is the result. Paul 24 wins round 1 of this season. He takes the win in the hour of Snetterton. E39 car joins him on the podium with the number 1 USG Porsche, Just Boris in the 44 McLaren in P3, Neverlift in P4, Private Joker P5, Prince Vinny P6, NLR Andy P7. V Sparko finished a lap down in P8. Absolute disaster there on the final lap, but still a point scoring position. You'll see in P9 is Tips 1967 Le Torero Doré. You can see Base Monkey P10 with DKG Motorsport. Apollyon finished 21 laps down with a DNF. And Attended Genie 28 laps down with a DNF. But what a bizarre start to the season. Not only for the Drivers' Championship with the newfound threat of Paul 24's 9.2 second dominant lead come the end of this race. A real tooth and nail battle for P1. But also the sudden turning tides for the Teams Championship as USG Porsche look to be taking the top with P2 and P5. It may just give them the points advantage they need not only over UKBB but over the freelancers of Just Boris and Paul 24 should they choose to register themselves as a team. Of course, that would require one of them to swap cars if they wanted to team up. If they were to get other teammates, it would lock out not only the Porsches from being used again, it would also fill in the first available slot for McLaren. But that is a bizarre turn of events there. Well, with nothing else for me to say, thank you so much for watching. What a bizarre start to the season. Well done to everyone for turning out and making this event a hell of a show for what it is in the opening rounds here. And we'll see you for the next 8 weeks or so. You see either me or you'll see rCookie14. But thank you so much for watching and take care. Goodbye for now.